Hi guys, back with me again, Aji Kurniawan Yusuf. In this video, we can learn together how to conduct the outer model test. These are the research model that we want to analyze. So we will have four variables. The first variable is product quality or X1. It is the independent variable. Brand positioning X2. It is also independent variable. Then mediation variable or C, it is brand attitude, and the dependent variable is brand loyalty or Y. After the model is drawn, then we need to conduct outer model test or measurement model test. After measurement model test, we conduct structural model test or inner model test. Our outer model test, it consists of factor loading, reliability, convergent validity, and also discriminant validity. If your model contains formative indicator, you need to conduct outer collinearity. These are the things that you need to analyze in the outer model. To analyze those all, there are three common functions in Smart PLS. You can find it from this calculate. The first one is PLS algorithm. The second one is bootstrapping, and the last one is blindfolding. PLS algorithm is especially to analyze outer model. You can find also the direct effect, indirect effect, coefficient, and also the path coefficient in PLS algorithm. R-squared and F-squared can be also found in PLS algorithm. However, for bootstrapping, you can find the significance. In PLS algorithm, you just know about the coefficients, but you don't know whether it is significant or not. So bootstrapping focus on the significance. The last one is blindfolding. It is used to find the Q-square. So the first function is PLS algorithm. Just calculate, then choose PLS algorithm. Here, choose path weighting scheme, because it is stated here that path weighting scheme provides the highest R-square value for endogenous latent variable, and it is generally applicable for all kinds of PLS path model. The maximum iteration use should be large. The default here is 300. If you want to use more than 300, it's very okay. The stop criterion, it is 10 to the power of minus x. The default here is 7. You can fill it with 5 or 7. This is the command to stop the PLS algorithm analysis. Then start calculation. Alright, if you see here, there are path coefficient, indirect effect, total effect, outer loading, outer weight, latent variable, residual, R-square, F-square, and the other things. The first step you need to find is the factor loading or indicator loading. Actually, this step is mentioned as confirmatory factor analysis. We want to know whether an indicator or an item can be the factor of the latent variable or not. The benchmark is the factor loading or indicator loading should be higher than 0.7, and they have to be significant. In the other source, it is mentioned that it has to be higher than 0.708. We can see from the outer loading, you can see here that most of the variables have been green. It means it has fulfilled the benchmark. However, x1.3 is still red because it is less than 0.7, and x1.5 is still also red because it is less than 0.7. How if it is less than 0.7? So the easiest way is that just delete the indicator. However, Hare et al. 2022 mentioned that if your factor loading is still between 0.4 up to 0.708, you can delete the indicator as long as after you delete it, the internal reliability and also the convergent validity above the suggested threshold value. To make it more simple, just delete it, x1.3 and x1.5. So we go back to the model and delete x1.3 and also x1.4. Okay, you can align it left again to make it more aligned. Then we conduct PLS algorithm again, calculate PLS algorithm, same path 300 and also 7, start calculation. And check again the outer loading or factor or indicator loading everything has been clean. So everything has been okay. Some sources also mention that we need to check the significance of the outer loading. So we can check the significance not in the PLS algorithm but in the bootstrapping. So go back to the drawing pad and then choose calculate then bootstrapping. As you know that SmartPLS can work efficiently and effectively using small sample size because they create several subsamples from the data randomly. For example, this is your data. They create this subsamples, 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 and subsamples. The number of subsamples should be large to make the result more consistent. However, larger number of subsamples increase the computation time. The default is 500 and I think it has been enough. If you want to make it into 1000, 2000, 10,000, it is okay, but the computation time will be longer. Due to the subsample method, the analysis that you conduct with what your friend conduct using the same data can be different, even though there will be only slight difference between your analysis and the other analysis. Just take two parallel processing. Amount of result, you can choose basic bootstrapping, it is enough. But if you want to use complete bootstrapping, it's also okay. Confidence interval method, just use bias corrected and accelerated bootstrap. The test type, of course, two-tailed with significance level 5%, 0.05. Then start calculation. You can see from the outer loading significance, you can see here all the p-values are less than 0.05. It means all are significant. So factor loading criteria are fulfilled. The second one is about reliability. There are three reliability analyses that we should pay attention on. We go to PLS algorithm and choose construct reliability and validity. The reliability measurements are Cronbach alpha, rho A, and also composite reliability. All of these numbers should be higher than 0.7. If you see here, all of them are green. Therefore, the indicators are reliable. If you see as well, the value of rho A should be between Cronbach alpha and also composite reliability. In the SmartPLS 4, the composite reliability is denoted with rho C. After analyzing outer loading or factor loading and also reliability, the next one, let's analyze convergent validity. You can check convergent validity using average variance extracted or AVE. The AVE values represent whether the indicators used to measure a variable really have high correlation with this variable. So these indicators can represent the latent variable. The threshold value is 0.5. If it is more than 0.5, it means the convergent validity prerequisite is fulfilled. If you see here, the AVE value are fulfilled for all indicators. The next one is discriminant validity. If convergent validity wants to know whether this indicator really represents this variable or not, discriminant validity wants to know whether the indicator of a variable of a construct is different with the indicator of different construct. For example, variable A has indicator A, variable B has indicator B. Indicator A and indicator B should not be correlated since they measure different variables. If indicator A and indicator B are correlated, the discriminant validity will not be fulfilled. There are three methods to know discriminant validity. The first one is Fornell-Larker, the second one cross-loading, and the last one is HTMT. Actually, you don't need to analyze all these three, just use one only, but the most recommended one is HTMT, heterotrait monotrait ratio. You can find the result in discriminant validity. The top row is the square root of AVE, average variance extracted, and it will be diagonal. So 0.865 is the square root of AVE of the brand attitude. This is as well the square root of AVE of the brand loyalty and so on. While the value below, it is the correlation between two variables. It means between brand attitude and also brand loyalty. The benchmark is that the square root of the AVE of a variable should be higher than the correlation between that variable with the other variable. On the easier word, I can say that the top value in each column should be the highest compared to the value below. If you can see 0.865, it is the higher compared to the last three values. This one as well, this one as well, this one as well. Therefore, Warner-Larker criteria is met. Or I can say that the discriminant validity criteria is met. You can also check using cross-loading. The benchmark is that the value of the loading of the indicator with the construct should be the highest compared to the other construct or the other variable. For example, x1.1 is product quality, so the value of the loading x1.1, x1.2, x1.4 on product quality should be the highest compared to the other indicators. You can see here, these three numbers are the highest compared the values below. x2.1 up to x2.5 represent brand positioning. Therefore, it should be the highest compared to the other indicators. y1.1 up to y1.4 representing brand loyalty. It is the highest compared to the other. c1.1 up to c1.4 representing brand attitude. It is the highest compared to the other value. Therefore, the discriminant validity using cross-loading is fulfilled. The third method is using HTMT or heterotrait monotrait ratio. The prerequisite is that if it is less than 0.9, then it is good. Or the indicators representing a construct is different with the indicators representing other construct or variable. Some sources also mention if the indicators are really different, then we can set the benchmark value or the threshold value is 0.85 instead of 0.9. So in this case, all the value is less than 0.9 or less than 0.85, so the discriminant validity criteria is fulfilled. This is the information for you guys to know the descriptive statistic of each latent variable. You can analyze that perhaps using SPSS or Microsoft Excel using this data. However, for the correlation for each variable, you can find it using latent variable, and this is the latent variable correlation. The next one is outer model collinearity. For reflective model, as we know that our model is refractive model or the indicators are all reflective, you don't need to conduct outer model collinearity. Therefore, for outer model task, we have done it all and everything has been fulfilled.